water, earth, fire, air. I believe Aang can save the world.
Avatar was already a perfect show, so when I found out that this remake was actually real, I felt confused, betrayed, and moist all at the same time. As I was watching the trailer, there were a couple of things that made me a little bit concerned, and I'm kind of worried about what's coming. I'm not sure if it's makeup, but a lot of the characters are way too round. Like Zuko's head is way too circular. It makes me uncomfortable. In the animated series, a lot of the characters did have a softness to them that kind of defined the style of the show, but seeing it in real life is just kind of uncanny and weird. In order for the show to not immediately be ruined by bizarre visuals alone, they're gonna have to find a way to blend these chubby-headed little squishy people into these hyper-realistic environments. Some of the things in the show may actually be too close to the animated series. Personally, I've never watched any of these live-action adaptations. I haven't seen One Piece or Full Metal, and I don't know if it looks uncanny or cartoony when you portray such stylized worlds in real life, but scenes like this just look kinda jarring. The costumes for some of the characters do look wacky. Boomy and Aang look straight off of the Kids' Choice Awards and not in a good way. And Zuko's head is still way too big. But to be honest, it's not all bad. The Heibai CGI looks sick, Ozai looks sick, and overall, you can tell that they are putting a lot of money into this, especially where it's needed. All of the wide scenery shots are caked in CGI. They're not holding back with the scale of the world, and as dumb as some of the stuff may look, I think their intentions here are really good. They're driving money into literally everything, and it looks ridiculous, but it's not because they're cheaping out. It's because they're just fucking dumb. Like, even the floor is CGI. There's nothing practical about this show at all. Like, you know you could have just had Buddy stand up on some dirt, right? The bending in the fights do look a little bit more extravagant and fun, especially compared to... The Shyamalan movie significantly nerfed bending. There's a scene where it takes like 6 or 7 earthbenders to move a medium-sized rock. And while this does make the world more grounded in that not everybody just has superpowers, it arguably makes the entire thing even goofier because what kind of threat do these people actually pose? It takes half a dozen of them to slide a rock towards you at 3 miles per hour. Why are you enslaving them? These characters need to be strong. It doesn't matter if it breaks some of the immersion and makes the world a bit unbelievable. Avatar is a fantasy world, and it's essential to keep those fantasy elements intact. I feel like the Shyamalan movie tried to move in a more mature direction. They focused on the cultural aspects and tried to make something more realistic that wasn't meant for as young of an audience. But honestly, that just betrays what the show is about. There's a lightness and a goofiness to Avatar that's essential in making the show feel the way it does.
You hear that? I hear people under the mountain.
Nice try.
Hello, children.
And the 2012 movie did not go that direction at all. Things were grayer, they attempted to make things more grounded, and because of that, what we got was an absolute cringe fest. This show needs to remain childish and goofy and fun. Those are the reasons we like Avatar. And honestly, I have faith that that's what they're gonna do. In order to make this a successful project, they need to not take many creative liberties at all. And as absurd as some of those costumes might look, I think it's almost necessary to stay true to the original work. Like, yeah, a solid blue arrow being tatted on a 12-year-old's head is not exactly realistic. So in place of that, you use this weird little intricate design with all these smaller patterns that end up forming an arrow. And yeah, it does look more like something you'd see in an actual real-life tribal society, but who cares? I asked some others what they thought of it visually, and they seem to think that it's absolutely ridiculous. I get that it shows a lack of competence on the side of the production team because this is the one thing that you probably should have changed that could have actually made the show better and easier to look at, but I actually think this is kind of a good sign for the show. Because if you're willing to keep the one thing that you should have changed, then it would only make sense that you're gonna keep everything else too. Right? It kind of shows that these guys might not be taking any creative liberties, and that's good. The original show is what we love, and I think all that anybody wants is a faithful recreation. It's been 10 years, and people have been dying for something Avatar related. It has not been 10 years. It has been like fucking 15, bruh. I'm old as fuck. Holy shit. But then that introduces the question. What I want to know is, who is the audience for this show? What I've noticed is that these live action remakes oftentimes look to pull in a more normie audience. The thing about Avatar is the audience was already kind of as normie as it could get. And I'm not saying that that's a point against the show. I'm just saying that when it aired, it pulled in the biggest net of people you could ever hope for. Everyone from your lunch lady to your parole officer was watching this show. My strict-ass dad who believes in belt whippings and politics would oftentimes be more caught up than I was. And if him watching a show about a little squishy, bald-headed boy riding a mega space cow doesn't tell you something about how widespread this show is, then you need lobotomy. A new adaptation is an opportunity for a new creative vision, but why would you risk giving them the reins at all? We all saw how bad Death Note turned out when they try to give it a more universal appeal. I think an animated remaster or some sort of animated spin-off or continuation would have hit everybody's nostalgia even harder. I think the weirdest thing is that Avatar is the West's only real foot in the world of animation. It's unanimously loved, and oftentimes it gets put into the anime conversation. So for them to go the live action route with this one, it kind of just seems like a waste of potential. Instead of retreading the same path, we could have been returning to this world that we love and seeing a whole different side of it. The Earth Kingdom and all of its mysteries, the Water Tribe and its tradition and mysticism. The show doesn't really have an opportunity to explore those things any further than we've already seen. I think this would have reinvigorated the fanbase in the same, if not a better way. And you don't take on all of the risk associated with transitioning this beloved masterpiece into a completely different medium. I'm curious to see how they'll portray some of the more abstract stuff in the show without making Ko the Face Stealer just look like your average local Fent baby. But if they were able to effectively make the One Piece Fishman not look like an existential horror, then I have faith they'll be able to do something at least reasonable. The show carries a lot of emotional weight and heavier introspective themes that I hope don't get lost in translation. The show needs to be just as lighthearted
Can't catch a fish around here because normally my fishing skills are off the hook
as it is thought-provoking
Wait for him. He will come.
and emotionally resonant.
Katara, what's wrong? What did you do?
The story here isn't really the draw of the show. Avatar is a pretty typical guy has superpowers, struggles, and saves the world story. The thing we love are the characters and their journey, and the scary part is we might be losing the one thing that made this show special. It didn't matter if we were going to the market to buy a papaya or if we were watching Aang cross-dress as one of his ancestors. We wanted to see it all, and if you get this wrong, what you have isn't Avatar anymore. I guess all we can do is hope that they get it right. Hope that Appa doesn't look like he stinks too much. Hope that Zuko's fat head doesn't get in the way. And hope that they don't forget what it is we love about this show. Please subscribe so that I can eat. And so that you don't miss my new videos. New videos coming real soon. Press that button so you don't miss anything. Bye bye.